Drive safe. Reroute. Caution, please mind the speed limit.
Alright, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jonathan Tapp with the International Fleetstar.
Caution, please mind the speed limit.
Beginning with onions in Sandpoint, Idaho. And I will get to the next stop right after 900 miles, dropping the onions off. So let's go for a ride.
Keep right, and then turn right.
僕だけのスリッパを街の明かり揺れて君の声がまだ
Self while in office, he did everything he possibly could to avoid that sort of conflict of interest. And here we are, wildly smuggling the other side of this
Donald Trump was talking about, he has no idea what goes on with his finances. He's turned it all over. And
That's a horrifying statement to make in and of itself.
right. With all of this. And I also have a problem with where this money is coming from. It's coming from the concept of money as opposed to an actual product for the most part that people can get. And it very much feels like you invest, and then he knows when to jump out before the bottom falls out of it, and then the people that invest lose their money, and he just enriches himself. I mean, maybe that's a mischaracterization. If you know better about the finance of how this works, please share in the conversation. 713-440-8870.
The meme coin itself, which I can't believe is a real phrase that I'm saying, meme coin, that generated $600 million.
That's amazing. As we continue to contemplate that, and I'm sure you have reactions to that, please share those with us at 713-440-8870. Chris from Ireland wants to contribute his thoughts on the Tesla story. Or she wants to share her thoughts. Chris, what's on your mind?
Hey, yes, Ernie. Thanks for taking my call. Yes, I am a Tesla driver. I have full self-driving also. But I would say, and what that means is if you engage
this topic. Of course, this is not the court of law. This is not the trial for it. And this is just Jess's own opinion from her experiences in the car. And it helps us a little bit better understand what it must be like being in the cabin of those cars. Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for calling. Fascinating story, though. Just really does. We are also talking about our resident getting richer. Scott is on the line from Lake Jackson. Scott, what are your thoughts on Trump and crypto?
I just think that this is something that it seems to occasionally pop up, and then it just kind of goes by the wayside, but it needs to be talked about. Something needs to happen. I mean, and it's everywhere. We're supposed to just, believe and love those investments in the bond. And now Trump with this, and I mean, these stories again and again and again, and the people that show up in Congress, on both parties, both sides, where, they're just this simple person with this simple career that makes $50,000 a year and everything, and 4 years later, they're worth tens of millions of dollars. That's a real problem.
Yeah. My one story to go with this is I will tell you about when I first started working up here, which is considered the third floor in our building when I came to work in the radio unit. Second floor is our business offices of Houston Public Media, and we had a programming director at the radio station who said she did not want reporters and those that lived on the third floor to visit the second floor because of even the concept of impropriety of a combination between where the business is done in this organization and the journalistic work is done. It can be done that cleanly and clearly to keep a separation. It horrifies me to see what happens in the higher echelons of our government, with people feeling very free and easy to move back and forth between these realms to have information that is not readily available to the rest of the world, to use their position to increase their coffers. That's bothersome to me. And Scott, thank you for calling and sharing with us. That was awesome.
Please mind the speed.
There you go. I shared that with you. Now we're going to move on. We got a whole lot more show to do. We're going to find out more about Gaslit, the new Texas documentary on fossil fuel expansion with the film's director. That is coming up in just a moment, right after this break.
What we see now is Venezuelans rediscovering that they're part of a larger community, and I think, this earthquake will have big consequences for Venezuelan society, for Venezuelan people as a whole, because they have seen the power of their collective action.
I'm Natalie Kitra. That's today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear that time, 7 o'clock.
Founding fathers Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton fought for independence. They also had opposing views of the country.
I think of the competing positions of Hamilton and Jefferson as golden and silver threads woven throughout the tapestry of American history.
How the two men shaped our history. That's next time on Think.
Listen to me tonight at 11 o'clock.
A year ago, one of the deadliest floods in U.S. history tore through the Texas Hill Country. Since then, we've been following up with survivors and people who lost loved ones.
I find myself just shaking my head saying, I can't believe I find myself here.
You can hear their stories on the podcast After the Flood from the Texas Newsroom and PBS's Frontline, out now.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care, and pushed the frontiers of modern science.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering customers electricity plans that match their energy use schedules and lifestyles. All plans come with 100% renewable energy. Details at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and guest host Catherine Shilcutt.
From the oil fields of West Texas to communities along the Gulf Coast, a new documentary called Gaslit examines the people living on the front lines of America's oil and gas production boom. The film follows Jane Fonda as she
also from doing this work for so long, I've really learned that the people most immediately impacted by the issues, they're the ones that really know what needs to be done. And so instead of like bringing in experts from the coast, from different places, everyone that Jane meets lives and works in Texas or Louisiana, and they're really at the front lines of this crisis.
You have ranchers, you have shrimpers, you have former oil workers, you have every different kind of person, I feel like, reflected here as much as you possibly could.
Yeah, I mean, and that was part of what drew me to it as well, right? Because these are unlikely allies. I haven't seen a lot of ranchers and shrimpers, with environmentalists, to be honest. They might not agree on everything, but they agree that what's happening right now with the pollution and the expansion is out of control, and it's bad for workers, it's bad for Americans, and it's bad for businesses as well.
You talk a bit about pre-production, planning this, where the seeds were laid. What actually opened your eyes when you were out there filming that caught you off guard? When did you be like, oh wow, I hadn't seen it from this perspective. I hadn't thought about it this way.
Yeah, so many things. I felt every day I was having like a new thought, but one of them was when we're up in the Permian Basin. So that's in West Texas, of course. It's the biggest drilling field in the U.S. We meet a woman named Sharon Wilson who has this very high-level, industrial-level thermal camera, and with it, she's able to see all the methane emissions that all these projects are emitting that the human eye can't see. You can't smell it, and it really blew my mind. Like I knew it was happening, but to look at it and see this beautiful blue sky that seems clear, and then look through the camera, you suddenly see billowing huge clouds of emissions was shocking. And then also before I started this project, I didn't know that everything we're drilling in the Permian is for export to other countries, including countries in Europe that have actually banned fracking, but they're buying our fracked gas. And I don't know, I've talked to my friends and I've been showing this film around the country, and it seems like a lot of people don't know that that's what's happening right now.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. I was reading your AMA on Reddit, and one of the things that I thought was very poignant was you were talking about how the fossil fuel industry, countries like these in Europe that have banned fracking themselves, they treat Gulf communities as sacrifice zones, is how you put it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and that's a term that we've heard the industry use, a lot of people use. It's basically treating certain areas, they're always low income, often people of color, but not all. You'll see in the film people from all backgrounds. And they really have all the industry right there. And there is a hypocrisy with countries like the ones in Europe that have banned fracking. But I learned, in the film we actually go to Germany, so you'll see what happens there. And when I talked to people, they hadn't made the connection. They weren't even really thinking that natural gas was from fracking, and they certainly didn't know that it was causing suffering to Americans.
There's a huge disconnect there, absolutely.
You talked a little bit about, or we just did a moment ago, about what you saw, what opened your eyes when you were out filming it. When you show this film to folks that are in the energy industry, what do you hope they're going to notice and see that maybe in their day-to-day job they don't even think about?
Yeah, I hope when they look at it that they're thinking about, more than the profits, more than the constant expansion, but really the impact that this is having on so many people's lives. And with that, I include people working in the industry, the people working these oil and gas jobs, working on the patch, working in refineries. These are some of the most dangerous jobs that we have out there. And we have people in the film who have retired or left the industry that talk about it. We came very, very close to getting a couple people who currently work in the industry, but even without using their faces or their names, they were just too afraid to go on record about it. So I'm not sure that those execs and those leaders know how bad the situation is. So I'd love for them to make that connection. And then also just look at the impacts it's having on communities. I mean, a lot of these projects are right next to where people live, next to schools, next to all playgrounds we would see. So I hope it gives them a different perspective of some of the impacts that they might not be thinking about in their day-to-day.
And that's important to know because this is an energy state, right? That's what we do. That's one of our chief industries and exports. And families depend on the oil and gas industry for their livelihood. So you have to take a really unique approach, I feel like, to addressing that complexity when you're doing this, right?
Absolutely. And, the people in the film and Greenpeace and other people in the movement, they talk a lot about a just transition. And that just transition part is really for the workers. So what we want to see, what the film that they were filming in a studio. They were out on location all the time. And even though she saw industry back then, of course, she was shocked at how much the scale has grown and the amount of it and the concentration of it. You know, it seems, I mean, I'm not from Texas, so I couldn't compare it to decades ago. So I thought it was really important to bring people like Connie in addition to all the Texans in the film to kind of give that perspective of how much things have changed.
Are there aspects of this that ended up on the cutting room floor that you felt like we just didn't have the time to tell that part of it, but you want people to know? You're nodding
we
no
shot
there.
over 500 hours. It was over 500 hours of footage. Yes, my editor Laura Virgo has spent a lot of time editing it, almost 2 years. So I always said we could take each person and each community in the film and do a feature film about them. There's so much more here, and I feel like in a way I hope that the film gives people curiosity to go and learn more about it. So yeah, I would have loved to spend more time, I would say, with the workers and kind of the impacts there. We do talk about it. It's right in the beginning. We have Ramon Hogan, who's a former worker, who is working with people in the industry and trying to like see what they need and get at their perspectives. And we could have gone way deeper on all of that. So, you know, maybe there'll be a sequel. Who knows? We got a lot of
What for you? What will tell you that this film is a success? Is it change in the industry? Is it simply eyes on it? Is it education? What area will, for you personally, say this was a successful project?
I mean, in the short term, I think it's getting people to see it. We've taken it, right now we've done festival tours and we're in the middle of our theatrical tour. I'm flying to Houston right now. I'm at the airport. I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be at the River Oaks all week. And talking with people, you know, they might not live in Texas and Louisiana, but they really connect to the people in it and the issues. Perhaps it's data centers, perhaps it's a different kind of industry coming in, but I think most of us can relate to this. So, you know, I'm really impressed by that. I also hope that it continues to reach people across the spectrum. You know, this isn't a left or right issue. This is a human issue. And then on top of it, yes, I'd love to get it, you know, educational, you know, distribution, get it out there, get it in front of younger people. And if there could be changes to the industry, that's obviously the goal we're all going toward. I think it's going to take more than one film, but I hope that it's, you know, a small piece of a step in the right direction.
Got to go back to the celebrity element of this again, because that's just where I go. Having worked with a lot of celebrities over my career, there are some that really know how to gives you hope that there can be a change, and maybe even what Jane Fonda may have imparted to you in this whole battle.
Yeah, Jane definitely gave me a larger perspective of these fights, and she said at one point this analogy that I really love, that when she started out as an activist, she felt that her activism and making change was a sprint, and then later she realized it was a marathon, and then later yet she realized that it's a relay race, and so one generation hands it off to the next. And I think we have seen a lot of progress, even though in other ways we're absolutely not where we want to be. So I see hope there. There's also people in the film, there's wins as well as some of these setbacks that you're going to learn about. For example, Diane Wilson, who I mentioned, was in Calhoun County. She won this incredible lawsuit against a plastics company, and it was just a citizen lawsuit, and now they're not allowed to pollute plastic into the ground and into the water anymore. And that's something that I've seen other communities learn from and try to replicate. There's also over in Louisiana, the Banner sisters live in a part that's known as Cancer Alley, but in their actual community, they've kept the industry out, and they've done that by organizing. And so I think that if you can get your community on the same page to care about these issues and hold together, communities do have so much power, even against billion-dollar industries.
Yeah. Can you continue to grow this industry and continue to capture these resources without the environmental harm that comes from it?
From what I learned of the people in the film, that doesn't seem to be a realistic thing. Sharon Wilson talks about carbon capture, that even when she goes to facilities that have it, that's this new technology. There's a very catchy name, but she's still seeing the emissions there. So I think we're going to need to look outside the box and think a bit bigger. And also, as you'll see, people like John Allaire, who used to work for the industry, he says this line in the film that's great: there's not a CEO in the world that says this is an infinite resource. So in one way or the other, we're going to run out of it, but how painful do we want that to be, and how much, and who takes the burden of that if it is painful? Is it the workers? Is it the company? Is it the people that live nearby? So I think, we can look at it more holistically, and one way is definitely to put more of our efforts, time, energy, and resources into renewables.
Katie, nice work there, and I'm very happy that you chose this topic to spend your time telling the story. Because what people may not realize, when somebody like you sits down to do a film, it's going to be a big chunk of your life, and you got to think it's got value to you, and thank you for doing it.
Yeah. We love the film as empathy machine, as you put it, Katie. I love that. I'm stealing it from you. Katie Camosi is the director of Gaslit, which is being screened at the River Oaks Theater this weekend. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston. Coming up, our current obsessions. So get sharing, text us, call us, let us know, 713-440-8870, or email us, talk@hellohouston.org. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Go straight on.
The Onion first tried to buy InfoWars, a brand formerly infamous for peddling disinformation, in 2024. The takeover is still in legal limbo, but the satirical news site is moving forward. Over to Turner.
In my opinion, really bad website. Really bad website.
The Onion CEO on turning InfoWars into a comedy outlet on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear that today at 3 o'clock.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This Independence Day weekend, it's a flavor-packed grill-out with Vietnamese cuisine expert Andrea Nguyen and an all-American sausage fest with Faraday Savage, author of The Hot Dog Cookbook. Coming up on The Splendid Table.
The Splendid Table is on Sunday at noon.
Can't get enough PBS programming? PBS Passport is an added member benefit that offers exclusive streaming access to many of your favorite programs on the PBS app. Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Okay, here we go.
Support comes from the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Herman Park, featuring exhibits on dinosaurs, butterflies, stars, and ancient cultures, along with the Bird Maker Planetarium.
morning show, I should say. It's a song you keep playing on repeat. It's that book or audio book, how about, that makes you drive an extra mile in your car just to listen to a little bit more of it. You get the idea. So, okay, before we jump into Catherine's obsessions and my obsessions for the week, and your obsessions for the week, one of the top trending items now on X is, of course, the U.S. winning over Bosnia-Herzegovina last night with a score of 2-0. This is the team's first, as we mentioned earlier, World Cup knockout round within 24 years that they came away the victors. Before we get to all our current obsessions, start sharing yours if you haven't already. It's easy to do it. Email them to us right now at talk@hellohouston.org or call. I really like it when you call in and share your obsessions because we can talk about them. 713-440-8870 or text them to us at the same numbers. 713-440-8870. Okay, Catherine. Start me off with an obsession.
I have so many current obsessions. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, the thing that's a top of mind for me is a book I read in 20 hours. I couldn't put it down. It's Yesteryear. Have you heard about this?
No.
It's by Caro Claire Chambers. Am I getting her name correct? Oh, sorry, Caro Claire Burke. And it's a fiction novel about trad wives. Are you familiar with trad wives?
Yes, those traditional wives.
Yeah, so I consume a lot of trad wife content, ironically, because I'm fascinated by the cosplaying of like a very traditional wife, but also you're doing it for social media with your little camera and your ring light, you know?
Yeah, very traditional. Wait, am I in my light? Yeah.
And this is a book that really takes that and it goes nuclear with the whole concept of what is actually happening behind the scenes in the world of the most popular trad. It's called Yesteryear.
That sounds fascinating.
It is so good. You will not guess the ending. It is full of twists and turns. It is just a fun, great summer beach read. It's not philosophical. It's just fun.
You know how horrible my brain goes? Like, I hope it's been optioned for a film.
Oh, they are absolutely optioning this for a film. I've already heard that Anne Hathaway's attached to it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, my thought on also what you said is, wow, a book you read in 20 hours. I'm trying to think the last book that I didn't have to read for work. Because oftentimes you have to read a book and you have to just run right through it and get it done. What was his name? Harvey Firestein's autobiography. I had to do that right away because I had him for an interview. Last, though, out of pleasure book, and it's old, long ago I read it, Amityville Horror. That book came out. When I became aware of it, I read it all for and I read that whole book through. Oh my. Yeah.
You know what else I just finished very quickly too is The Executioners, which is the book that the book that Cape Fear is based on.
Oh,
very quick, fun read from the 1950s.
Fun? Interesting choice of words.
It's pulp.
Yeah.
Like when it came out, it was pulpy, it was campy. It's meant to be, a thrill ride.
Alex Garza's obsession is FIFA World Cup, and also, she says, tomorrow the Apple TV show Silo Season 3 starts, and you're into that too.
I'm very excited about that too, yes.
Before we get to mine, let's grab a couple calls. 713-440-887. Robert from Kingwood is on the line. Robert, what are you obsessed with?
Right.
Robert, you there?
Yeah,
I'm here. What are you obsessed with, Robert?
Pipeline swallowtails. For the last couple of years, I've had this Dutchman pipeline plant, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I would have these broods of 30, 40 calories, and they would just disappear overnight. For some reason this year, they're really coming up attached to my house, and every morning this week, I see a caterpillar come out, a butterfly come out of the chrysalis, the wings spread out, fill out, dry out, and then the color, and to watch the color, it's like waves of color over 30, 40 minutes, they get darker and brighter, orange and blue, and then after about an hour or two, they just fly off and the cycle begins all over again.
is a movie called Spirit the Horse. Horses are my favorite animals because of the sounds.
I'm kind of tempted to make a horse sound, but I don't think it'll come out right.
Let's just leave that alone. Mr. Uncle Walt says, I'm reading The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, and I can't put it down. Noah Espinosa says, America. He's obsessed with America. And you should be. It's a good weekend to be obsessed with it. Braden Arnold says, my current obsession is my 2 new kittens. Congratulations there on your new kittens. Okay, here comes my current obsession.
Okay, I'm waiting. I can't wait.
Do you know what a slime tutorial is?
What?
Slime tutorials. They are actually Broadway bootlegs. So if you sneak into a Broadway show with a camera and you video record the show, and then you post it, they put up a funny name for it and call it a slime tutorial. So it could be like, if you saw Wicked, it might be Green Girl Surrounded by Pink Slime Tutorial. And you'll find the entire Broadway production or traveling show or whatever of that play. So it's like seeing a Broadway show from your living room.
How do these not get taken down in violation of some sort of,
And that's the other thing. So they're
ephemeral.
And you got to run for it. And the other night, late at night, 4 in the morning, something like that, well, maybe more like 2 in the morning, I saw an amazing slime tutorial on YouTube of Chess, the new production of Chess the Musical, a show I'm obsessed with from
Night in Bangkok.
Yes, from the 80s, but the brand new production was on Lea Michele and Aaron Trevader in it, and it was beautifully shot. And I started watching it, and I said, oh, I gotta go to bed. I'll catch more of it tomorrow. And by yesterday, it was gone. And I was like, damn, I missed it. But anyway, so I'm obsessed with those. They're also called bootlegs. Or there's some pro cam shots of them, but they're all over the place, and you can find them, but grab them fast. And of course, they may be illegal, but they're on YouTube. We're now posting them, so if you should happen to fall upon them, I don't see them.
Just by accident.
Right. And boy, I searched to find that one again. I couldn't. If you're into those kind of Broadway camp, and I know, my Broadway friends, my actor friends are very opposed to these theaters should happen in the moment that they happen and see it. But I got to tell you, some of these things happen. I've looked for 2 years now. I have looked for Tammy Faye, the musical, that was in a very short run on Broadway. I've never been able to find it. I know it's out there somewhere. One day, not just in Bangkok, but one day in my bedroom, late at night, on my TV, I may find that. Sean Redigan is calling me bootlegger.
If the nickname fits.
I'm not shooting.
You're just consuming the bootleg product.
Oh gosh, yes. Famous opera singer and I were talking one time about Napster, and she said, as much as people get after it because of the bootleggedness of what was out there, and she said, but there were performances of hers that people in the audience had recorded that no recordings had existed of. And she was fascinated to hear them again. And she said the only reason she was able to hear it was she was able to find them on Napster.
Okay, what a delightful perspective.
Yeah, and so she was like, nobody was losing money. She did also go off on how the record companies reissue a lot of those opera things, and she gets no money for it. So might as well just put it out there. She was pretty cool. Cider is my current obsession, says Earl Grey Tea Cat. I've gotten obsessed with trying out as many as I can. And by cider, are you talking apple cider? Or are you talking high octane?
I'm thinking a hard cider.
I think so too.
That seems to be way more popular these days.
Yeah. I'm not much of a drinker.
I'm not either. I'm the worst in these kinds of conversations.
We had the coffee guy on yesterday. Coffee Mike was on. I'm kind of getting into coffees, trying different flavors, doing things like that. Anyway, we're always interested in your current obsessions. Send them to us, share them with us, call us when we do current obsessions, and we can share them with our audience. So that wraps current obsessions for this week. As I said, always feel free to send them to us. Just send them at talk@hellohouston.org with the subject line current obsessions, and we will compile them and share them with you next week. Okay, made it to the end of the show for today.
Another wonderful day with you, Ernie.
And thank you, Catherine, for sitting in for the last 2 days with me. It has been a pure joy.
Oh, well, right back at you.
And it's been a pure joy having you listen, watch, share with us as we continue to work through this crazy world around us every single day, trying to figure it out, trying to understand it a little bit better, trying to just get through life together. Thank you for joining us. I'm Ernie Manous. This is Houston Public Media News 88.7, and you have been listening to or watching Hello Houston. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menhivog, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter.